And we are live. Good morning, y'all. This is Ned over at My Philippine Dreams, and today is February 8th, 2017, the first day of the rest of your life. Welcome to our This Week in the Philippines livecast. I'm going to be running solo today because Michelle's working this morning. She might swing by a little bit later. But we got some things to cover, as always. This livecast is a weekly livecast in order to impart information to our audience, whether you're thinking about studying, living, retiring, visiting the Philippines, doing anything in the Philippines. This livecast tries to talk about some of the things that are going on in the Philippines and in the world that might affect your time here and your quality of life. All right, first up, our sponsors. Today's episode is sponsored by Chasing Your Philippine Dream, an expat's guide to the Philippines. Available on our website for $10.95, 100% money-back guarantee, and no one's ever asked for that. It's a good book. I've only gotten positive feedback from it. And if you've never been to the Philippines and you're thinking about coming here, either short-term or long-term, there's some information there that you can check out. This week we're going to be talking about marijuana legalization in the Philippines. Yeah, that one's kind of strange. Dirty cops being sent to Mindanao, and yet another American unfortunately murdered in the Philippines. First off, congrats to the last time we had the trivia question. Trivia winners were Vagabond X, Terry France, and KI4GLX. And they guessed correctly the trivia question, which had to do with Pink World by Planet P, which is something, it's a project by Tony Carey. If you have the album, if you've listened to the album, you know it's one of the most amazing and underrated recordings in musical history. It's great. All right, this week's trivia. We're going to have another trivia this week. This trivia bit is also a musical one and is carrying over the color scheme from the last trivia question. This one is about a city worker who seems to be Japanese. She is a martial arts expert and is noted as taking lots of vitamins. The final clue, she is facing a mechanoid invasion. If you know the answer to this, if you know the correct answer to this, email it to me at myphilippinedreams@gmail.com, and the first 3 correct answers will get a free copy of our book. 3 or 4, depends what kind of mood I'm in. All right, later on today, I got to go to the dentist. I got a busy day today. Got to go to the dentist, might have to have another tooth extracted, and it sucks because it'll be the 3rd molar that's been extracted. I've only had 2 other teeth pulled in my entire life. The wisdom tooth back here and the tooth next to it, and now it looks like the other tooth's either going to have to get a root canal or get pulled. Not looking forward to that. Also, we're going to be doing a weekly Q&A with Michelle and I. We're going to be doing that every week. I don't think she's aware of it yet. But if you have any questions specifically for me or Michelle, please email them to us at myphilippinedreams@gmail.com. If you leave them in the comment section, I always don't check the comment section, so I might not see it. We're going to try to do that every week. I think that'll be fun. We're also having a spaghetti fest this Sunday. We'll be meeting up at the new McDonald's because the old McDonald's in Dumaguete is currently going renovation. Bud Brown and I and Nano, Nikki, and June, and probably some others are going to be involved in doing that. And we're going to be giving out about 150 to 160 free spaghetti meals to hungry people in Dumaguete. So if you're in the area and you want to check that out, just meet up with us at New Macdo at around 1 p.m. on Sunday. Also, I've been very busy with work. The videos, I got a lot of stuff in the can. I got a lot of old footage that I've never even been put up yet. But I've been really busy with work, and I even got more work lined up now. So things are going to be kind of slow. But there's all kinds of other channels now. So you can go check out all kinds of other channels and be enlightened as to expatriate life in the Philippines. All right, as usual, I'll go through the subject matter. I'll go through the first article, then we'll go to the comments and check out some other things. All right, so first up, Senate bill legalizes marijuana use for medical purposes. A Senate bill intended to provide a comprehensive public health approach to the country's drug-related policies is also seeking to legalize the use of marijuana upon the approval of the Philippines Food and Drug Administration. Under the Senate proposal, quote, the delivery, possession, or use of cannabis or other dangerous drugs intended for medical use or to treat or alleviate a patient's medical condition or symptoms associated with his or her debilitating disease shall be allowed upon application to and approval of the Food and Drug Administration. The patient, caregiver, physician, or medical researcher who transports, uses, acquires, cultivates, or manufactures drugs for medical purposes shall be exempt from criminal liability, the bill added. The said provision is under Article 4 of the Senate's proposal, which ensures the protection of rights of drug users amid President Duterte's government war against illegal drugs. Under the bill, a person found positive for use of drugs shall not be apprehended nor subjected to surveillance, but will instead be referred to a public health officer to be assessed. The proposal is part of the community-based health intervention program for drug users. Quote from the senator who filed it, "There is a need for a new and sustainable strategy that is humane, rehabilitative, and less susceptible to abuse. We cannot kill our way out of this problem," the senator noted. Now, for those of you who don't know, and I didn't know until this actually came out, President Duterte has previously indicated, this was back in May of this year, well, last year, that he is actually in favor of legalization for medical marijuana, not for recreational use, not for the full-on legalization like this senator's bill is requesting. And you can actually see that the wording that this bill is couched under. So what's going on here is it seems to be a person who's kind of opposed to what's going on with the war on drugs here, and they're trying to look for a more humane way to approach this. So marijuana legalization, I don't think it's going to pass, but you never know. In the meantime, I got my bag of malunggay. This is actually dried malunggay. What I do is I take the leaves off the malunggay tree, and it's like a superfood. It's full of antioxidants and all kinds of healthful stuff. And I dry them in a big bin, and then I put them in my shakes. And then I smoke a cigarette. Yeah, hopefully it'll all balance out. So who knows where this is going to go. I thought it was an interesting read. Also, all the articles that I'm noting are down in the video description box, and you can actually see the original articles there. All right, let's go to the comments and see if we're actually online still. Okay. We're still online. We got 75 viewers, getting 8.5 messages a minute. Somebody said Says is better looking. Yeah. Yep. Scott Pearson, Why Me by Planet P is amazing. That was the first big hit. They got a lot of other good stuff too. Almost Retired says you and Says Style have live broadcasts at the same time. Ah, I didn't know that. And somebody else said Says is a better looking guy. Yeah, I'll agree. He's young though. When we're young, we're all beautiful. James Culver, my fiance's K1 visa has arrived. Congratulations. Almost Retired says no root canal, get it pulled. I don't know, man. I'm running out of teeth back there. I have to chew on this side as it is right now. Pete Kling says girl is hotter. Okay, cool. James Culver, now I have to start behaving. Peter T says, hi Ned, how much does your visa fee cost for staying there? It averages out to like $1.20 per day over the course of a year. $1.30, something like that. If you have to get your ACR card, it's going to cost you extra. When you first come here, you can't do the 2-month extensions, so you got to wait for that. But it's not that expensive. Hello, Loli Victorio. Hi, Ned and Michelle from Tim and Loli in San Diego. Somebody's telling Pete King, okay. Pete Kling, you're trolling me, man. Me and Michelle might be swingers. Yeah. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what happens with that. Next up, dirty cops to clean the Pasig River. President Duterte does not want 387 erring members of the National Capital Police Office sent to Subic for retraining. Instead, the president wants the officers who committed minor offenses to report to the National Palace and clean up the Pasig River. Yesterday, the president summoned over 200, the original report was over 387, police officers for dressing down over their alleged involvement in various offenses. Some 236 policemen received a tongue lashing from the president, who was obviously mad at alleged rogue policemen tagged in various crimes such as robbery and extortion. The commander-in-chief gave the cops the option to either resign from their post or move to strife-torn areas of the southern Philippines like Basilan, the geographical center of the notorious Abu Sayyaf group. President Duterte said, "Prepare to move out. I'll give you 2 weeks from now, 15 days. If you don't want to go there, go to your superior and tell them you are going to resign," the president said. He said those who will be sent to Basilan will stay there for 2 years. Quote, "All of you, you are part of the task force in the south. I will send you off in Basilan. Live there for 2 years. If you are able to survive, come back here. If you die, I will tell the police not to spend the money and just bury you there. Do your futile acts there," Duterte said. The president said he wanted to throw the erring policemen into the Pasig River, but would just instead instruct them to clean the filthy river. "You are engaged in illegal acts to get money. I want to throw you out into the Pasig River, but I couldn't because of those human rights people." De La Rosa, who is the police chief, they call him Bato, said the shame campaign would continue if that is the only way to get rid of the scalawags. They use scalawags. I love scalawags. They use a lot of old terms here. In the PNP. De La Rosa said, "As I have said, I would do everything to cleanse the PNP. I don't care if they get embarrassed. If they are put to shame, the more I am put to shame because I am the police chief. Meaning if my constituents are bad eggs, that means if police officers are bad egg, I'm also a bad egg." He said, the government recently halted its deadly war on drugs as some policemen are using the campaign as cover for their illegal activities. Again, you can read the original article down in the video description box. There's a link down there. You can check that. That's coming out of Sunstar. So as we reported last time, the war on drugs has allegedly been suspended. And actually, the next day after they declared that, there was no salvage operations. There was no killings in Manila from the police. So that's interesting. We'll see what happens with that as things continue to develop. Also, we got our electric bill. We try to talk about cost of living in the Philippines sometimes. This week, or this month, this past month, this is for January, 2,100 and something pesos. 2,143 pesos, which isn't too bad. It's around $46, $47. The most see, it's been beautiful. The last 4 weeks, 5 weeks here have been absolutely gorgeous. Every day there's a nice breeze. The humidity's been low. So we haven't had to use aircon except at night because I just like the sound of it. And we're also running computers. Michelle's working on her computer. She's got 2 monitors. I got my, setup going here. So we use a lot of juice. And one of the expensive things about living in the Philippines is the cost of electricity. So with judicious use of your electricity, like we turn it up to 4 or 5, we get it down to about 78, 79, and that's good enough. It also cuts down on the humidity. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Back to the comments. And people, try to behave in the comments section. There's a Pinoy troll. Jeff the Pinoy troll is here. I'm sure Ella Winter is around somewhere getting ready to issue a death threat. Scott Pearson says, there were tons of burnouts in high school. Don't you think with legalization taking place in so many places, this will be even more prevalent? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. All I know is that the United States drug laws put a lot of people into prison for a very long time for marijuana violations. So we'll see what happens. Victorio says, we want to visit Dumaguete. Yeah, I like Dumaguete. There's some certain people who might talk smack about Dumaguete. I'm not really sure why. But as far as having, decent amenities, decent restaurants, decent shopping, being able to get out of the city quickly, 15 minutes in either direction and you're out of the city. Actually less than that. You can go down to the beaches, you can go up to the mountains, there's all kinds of things. It's also easy with the port system here to get to different places, and we also got the airport. Good morning, Lucas. Lucas, did you put the rack on the bike? Turn it into a giant hobble. A Rouser 200 NS hobble. All right. Hannah Branham. Hi, Ned. Watching from North Carolina. Ha ha ha. Fort Bragg. I love North Carolina. I really did. I'm a Yankee. A shameless Yankee. But the people in North Carolina were so nice. I remember one time I went to a used car part, a junkyard, to get parts for a Gran Torino that I had. And the next thing I know, I got invited to this big cookout. They cooked up a pig. It was the first time I ever saw, barbecue pig. And it was really amazing. Plus, the Smoky Mountains and all that stuff. The Pinoy Trail says war is coming. I hope not. Steven 2090 says, how you're buffering. I don't know how this is buffering. I mean, we're coming live. This is a live stream. I'm only transmitting at 300 kilobits per second at 360p. So we'll see. Oh yeah, somebody, Keith Jetski King says, hope it passes so I can smoke there when I retire. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people are going to be going in for anxiety. I'm anxious, doctor. I need marijuana. But also, remember, President Duterte also issued a nationwide cigarette smoking ban, and that didn't really take off that well. Indiana in the house. Steve Stevens, Ned, do you think the claims that Duterte and Trump show a similar leadership style is justified? Yes, they're brash, they're outsiders, they kind of storm around and let other people pick the pieces up after them. I think it's very similar. Again, the outsider part alone, I think, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm often wrong, I think President Duterte is the first non-Tagalog president of the Philippines. Pinoy Trail could probably answer that. Which is unheard of. When he was running for president, everybody's like, oh, he doesn't have a chance, he doesn't have a chance, he's not from Luzon. And look what happened. And this is coming from a society that's very conformist. It's very toe the line, just go with the flow. Pakikisama, I believe it's called. Correct me again, Pinoy Trail, if I'm wrong. Just smooth interpersonal relations, don't rock the boat. So for them to elect President Duterte, the Filipinos were just tired of it, and people want to see change. So we'll see what happens. I think that's what a lot of us are doing, is just waiting to see what happens. We're just sitting here and hoping Trump doesn't push the button and start sending the nukes out. Oh. All right, finally, and this is some sad news, unfortunately, we have to report on this. An American was shot dead. This came out like 5 days ago, and I was waiting for more developments to come out, but as usual, and the local media, they don't seem to be reporting on a lot, so no further developments were noted. So this is coming straight off of the site. This is newsinfoenquirer.net. A 70-year-old American was shot dead on Saturday in San Jacinto town in Luzon. San Jacinto is about 2.5 hours, I think, northeast of Manila. And it's a small town. It's got a population of like 50,000. Danny Blaylock, a retired United States Navy sailor, they say soldier, was walking home at 10:35 when he was attacked. This was 10:35 in the morning, when he was attacked by two men riding a motorcycle. Blaylock was declared dead on arrival at the hospital from multiple gunshot wounds. Witnesses said the motorcycle driver was the gunman. So I guess what they're saying, there was two people on the bike, but the guy in front, the driver, actually shot him. Investigators found 5 empty shells from either a caliber 45 pistol at the crime scene. And this is a horrible occurrence. This is a 70-year-old man. What's the worst thing about this is people talking about this on forums and stuff, and they're starting to come up with all these hypotheses, and they're starting to theorize and come up with all these motivators and all this stuff. So basically they're just pulling stuff out of their ass because nobody knows what actually happened. And it gets to the point where they start blaming the victim. Oh, he was probably involved in this, or he did this, or blah, X, Y, or Z, which is ridiculous. So hopefully this case will be investigated. Hopefully somebody will be apprehended and somebody will do some time in prison for this. But again, you'll notice ever since Phil Prinz was killed here in Dumaguete, you haven't seen much news on foreigners being killed in the Philippines, in GMA, any of these publications, any of these news outlets here in the Philippines, which is disturbing. All right, even more disturbing, since we're talking about that, is one of the comments that was left in the article. And if you want to see the original comment, you can actually click down on the link, the American Murdered in Luzon link, down the video description box, and you can see the comment for yourself. It's obviously somebody trolling, either that or they're just horribly misinformed. This is a comment left by one Wahib, W-A-H-I-B, concerning the murdered American. Wahib says, quote, "Another gentle reminder to our American friends to behave when you're in a foreign country. It pays to respect local culture and local people. George Anikau, an Afghan veteran suffering from serious PTSD, was let loose by the U.S. Embassy to roam the streets of suburban Makati. He picked fights wherever he went, until 4 brave Filipino warriors stood up to him and taught him a lesson he'd never forget. It took the U.S. Embassy some time before they admitted George was suffering from PTSD and was a danger to himself and the people around him. Now that Danny Blaylock is dead, all he or his family can do is seek compensation. As our liaison chief in the U.S. Embassy loves to say in her twangy Tagalog, it's all para lang yan, which basically means it's like an advantage to have money, or it pays to have money. And basically what he's referring to, this was the murder of a Marine major. I believe he was a Marine major. He was married to a woman who worked at the U.S. Embassy. He was actually active duty, I believe, and he was here on leave visiting his wife. And one night, around 2:30 in the morning, he was down by the gate. This is in Bel Air in Makati. They were staying in a nice area. And there was an SUV, a Volvo SUV with 4 young Filipinos in it. And George didn't like the idea that the guard was letting people in between the hours of 1 a.m. and 5 a.m., which they're not supposed to do, because people used to use that as a shortcut. So he yelled. George, I guess, had been drinking. I guess the 4 guys had been drinking, although there had been when they did the autopsy, there was no test done on, toxicity tests. So George went over to the vehicle, to the SUV, and he rapped strongly on the driver's side door and on the door next to it. The 4 young Filipinos, jumped out. A fight ensued. It was 4-on-1, and during the fight, one of the Filipinos pulled out a knife and stabbed him in the neck, and George was basically dead shortly thereafter. This was an active duty U.S. Marine major that was killed by these 4 young men. Now, they were all arrested that same night. Those 4 young men were arrested. They spent about 3 months in prison, and then they were all bailed. They all bailed out. As of today, none of them has been sentenced to any type of imprisonment. The 2 guys, only two charges were dismissed against 2 of the young Filipinos, and the other 2 young Filipinos were given probation. So they never saw the inside of a jail cell as a result of this conviction. They downgraded it from murder to homicide, and I guess the judge had the wherewithal or the ability to convict them of a lesser charge. So when you're talking about justice in the Philippines, this is a case, and that's a situation, and do your research on that too. So I might be getting some particulars incorrect on this. But when you're looking at justice and the way things work, and actually, you can actually see, there's one article in there somewhere where they talk about the pride that George Aquino had violated, Anikau had violated the pride of the Filipino, and they responded that way. And just the fact that these were wealthy young Filipinos of influence, and they didn't do any time, that gives you some indication of the way justice can sometimes work here. All right, on that happy note, and again, I hope this situation is investigated. I talked about last time about the guy who was murdered, and he made some comment about somebody's dog or something, and he got murdered over that. So it's the wild, wild west. Some people like the freedom. Some people enjoy the freedom in the Philippines because there's a lot of laws on the books, but they're not really enforced. A lot of people like the freedom in the Philippines because there's police, but they're not out and about usually. I haven't seen a checkpoint in Dumaguete for about 6 months. Seriously. And when they are out and when they're out cruising around, there's like 6 of them in the same car. They don't split up to check out different areas. So that's the price of freedom sometimes. All right, let's get back to the comments. And again, I don't want to get too negative, but I feel it's our duty and I feel it's imperative for us to talk about the good, and there's a lot of good about the Philippines. The bad, there's a lot of bad, and the ugly, and sometimes there's some ugly shit going on. All right, back to the comments. Hey, Jeff, are we going to do that interview at some point, man? You never got back to me. Somebody's mentioning PV. KI4GLX says, what was the motive, Ned? Nobody knows what the motive is. There's very little information that's out there on the murder of Danny Blaylock. Just the fact that this motorcycle pulled up with basic, mass on it, and they shot him 4 or 5 times. Chris Cross says, I'm here for the weed talk. Is someone saying they're going to let you smoke in the fills? Surely not. Can someone clue me in, please? I don't know. I think that senators, and I might be, being jaded and being pessimistic here. We're not. It looks like the stream's dying. But it seems like it's just opposition to President Duterte's anti-drug policies that they're filing this for. We'll see. Hey, Corey. Corey's here. Corey says, I hate turning down a fight, but do not ever fight with a Filipino. Just forget about it. That's some very good advice. That's some excellent advice, Corey. Somebody's asking about Barry Jordan. What's up with him? I have no idea. I don't have time to. I was watching the drama for a little while, and there's all kinds of drama stuff. You got Jerry Rizzo with his cartoons, and, the PV show as always. And but I've been working a lot this past week, and I haven't been able to keep up with it. Jay Unknown says the PI is lawless in some areas. Obviously, absolutely, yeah. And like when people talk about medical care and stuff, yes, there is like a 911 type system in the Philippines, but by the time you get through, by the time they understand our English, it could be too late. And they don't have like ambulances sent out to respond into the provinces and stuff. Usually, you're either getting thrown onto a trike or onto the back of a carabao. So that's why I like being around small cities. I like being on the outskirts of a small city. I like that. Is the stream still going? Can anybody tell? We got 153 watching right now. It says 11 messages a minute. I can't keep up with the messages, guys. I'm sorry. There's a lot of messages. But again, if anybody has never been here, and this is directed towards people who have never been here, and you have any specific questions you want Michelle and I to respond to, please email them to myphilippinedreams@gmail.com. Alright, it looks like our video is dying here, so I'm going to sign off. I hope it's been of use. If you know the answers to today's trivia question, please email them to myphilippinedreams@gmail.com. And until next time, y'all take care. And PLDT, please try to improve our internet. Please. Take care, y'all. Bye.